If you're here to hear about student entrepreneurship, raise your hand. Woohoo! We've got the best panel of the next 2 days because there's really only one more days of panels. So hopefully that breaks the odds for us. Hi, I am Mick Freeman. I am CEO and Executive Director of an organization called Bridge Entrepreneurs Network, or BEN as we're known. We are an all-volunteer, been there, done that, network in Colorado helping growth stage companies basically navigate challenge and change. Most of the companies, when they start getting to 5 or 10 million, start to peter out, run out of skills and strengths and energy, and we're the wind at their back to make sure they don't screw up and make all the mistakes that we as younger entrepreneurs did. So we're here today to hear about the seeds of innovation and youth entrepreneurship. We have an amazing panel. And what we're going to do is quickly introduce ourselves so you can kind of say who's in the room. And then we're going to start going around and talking about where do the seeds of innovation come from? What are some really cool things districts, public-private partnerships are doing? How are students learning? How are they engaging? How are we retooling teachers and educators and administrators to start thinking entrepreneurially when that is not how they were, for the most part, trained? So if we have enough time, we'll save some questions for the end. But with that said, I'm going to role model and starting with Gloria. So Mick Freeman, CEO and Executive Director, Bridge Entrepreneurs Network. I have been in education for 25 plus years and entrepreneurship for 23 years.
Good morning and welcome. I am Gloria Vizcasillas. I am Executive Director of the nonprofit called Echar Palante. It is a multi-sector alliance. Echar Palante means to move forward in Spanish. And we have been transforming Puerto Rico into the enterprising islands for the past 14 years. And I have been an educator for about 44 years, and in entrepreneurship specifically for the past 14.
Ferris.
Hello, everyone. Ferris Alamy, founder of International Strategic Management and Connecting Dots Globally. I'm going to focus my talk today about the Connecting Dots Globally. We do entrepreneurship and small business development, and we do it from K-12 to beyond.
Terrific. Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Stephanie Alvarado. I'm the Director of Global Programs from NIFTY, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. We were founded in 1987, and we're all about bringing equitable access to entrepreneurship education to kids.
Riley.
Hi, I'm Riley Johnson. I'm the director of the AMP Lab at Electric Works. We're a public high school program 2 hours north of here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We serve juniors and seniors in a half-day model, about 475 students in our program, and we really are a think tank and launch pad for students.
So Riley, we're going to start with you. So we're going to ask everybody, as a way to get to know them better, what is one accomplishment that they are the most proud of, that they've either been part of or their organization has done, as a way to introduce themselves further in their work. So Riley, let's start with you.
Thanks. I think for me, what I'm most proud of, so we just finished our third school year, so we're relatively new. We're blessed that we're housed on a 1.5 million square foot mixed use redevelopment project, an old General Electric factory in the heart of Fort Wayne. And I think we kind of rose up as a phoenix overnight. And so I think what I think is my most proud accomplishment is we serve a population that historically is outside the walls of opportunity. And so I think by flipping that equation and bringing them front and center, we've seen a lot of positive ripple effects of that.
And we're going to talk about some of the economic development ripple effects a little bit later. How about you, Steph?
As I mentioned, NIFTY is all about being able to bring entrepreneurship, education, and resources to young people. We work throughout the United States and with partners in about 30 countries, reaching just around 75,000 students per year. And so the ability to start as a small initiative from the Bronx, New York, which is really focused on a single teacher, our founder, Steve Mariotti, who saw his kids struggling and really disengaged from school, which I think is something we're going to talk about a little bit more, and saw that teaching them how they can make money and what we like to say is own their future is a way to get them excited about sometimes school, but sometimes just what's next for them. And whether that's starting a business or a different career path, what we're really proud of is being able to scale that mission to a place where now we're able to work with entire school districts, ministries of education, and promote entrepreneurship as a subject area that not only gets kids engaged in school, but also is a really effective way to help teachers professionally develop.
Cool, thank you. Ferris.
Thank you. One of the things I'm proud of, I feel like there's a lot to be proud of, working especially with kids in their journey. But I'm going to, since we're talking about all the kids, I'm going to talk about actually the parents. One of the things that is really exciting, just to see how the parents react to what their children are doing. It just, many times there's so many tears, especially on the last day when they're presenting their product or service that they're going to launch based on the program we built. Just watching the tears and the hugs and the excitement of the parents about their children, it just it still gives me goosebumps even now. So it's just very proud moment to see the excitement and the proud moments for those parents watching their kids flourish in a way that they may have not seen them before, including positively impacting how they think of their kids or children, as well as the kids thinking of themselves. So that usually makes me very proud and very satisfying moments.
Thank you. What it makes me proud makes the whole Multi-Sector Alliance proud. Basically, we have collectively engineered a program that became public policy, and we're integrating entrepreneurship and innovation, the development of these skills from kindergarten to senior year in high school as a transversal discipline in every grade, in every subject matter, 8 subject matters per grade. And we are very pleased that we have had fantastic results. GPAs have improved. The atmosphere in school has improved. The comparison of through standardized testing of schools that are being impacted and schools that are not being impacted, there is a huge difference. Attendance has gone up for students, and the violence, reported violence in schools have gone down. So we truly believe that we are preparing kids to be ready for the future, and these are skills that are have to be a requirement. And we're very proud that not only the Department of Education adopted this for the public schools, but the Private Schools Association, as well as the alternative schools and the faith-based schools and the Homeschoolers Association have all adopted the program. So thank you very much to the whole Alliance for helping.
Thank you. Well, let's talk about how to get students excited and engaged in this. So Jeff Hoffman at an event last night talked about all of us as the pit crew. He was trying to draw an analogy to being in Indianapolis 500 and all that, that we're the pit crew behind the students, behind the founders. And then Brad Feld, who's one of the founders of my organization, talked about us being the integrators. And there's no founder without the integrators. So how do we, Steph, get students engaged? And what are some cool examples of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we found through our work, and I've been with Nifty for around 15 years, I started out in the classroom, and then I did program management for Nifty. And so, I lovingly refer to the kids that I worked with back 15 years ago who are now grown-ups and running their own businesses, a lot of them. What's interesting about entrepreneurship is it's a really effective way to engage kids, and it does it on its own, as long as it is not, and I will say this, and this might be controversial, but as long as you approach the education of entrepreneurship not from a theoretical perspective, but from a problem-based, experiential perspective. And that's something that Nifty is very passionate about. So our students come into our classes knowing, or our biz camps, knowing nothing about business, potentially, and they develop their ideas based on either a problem they see in their community or in their life, or a skill set that they uniquely have. And so one of my early students that I was telling Riley about yesterday, his name is Andres Cardona, and his family was in a tight financial situation. He actually was a junior in high school and wanting to drop out so that he could work and help support the family. But he decided instead to start a basketball camp. just lessons on the side that he could teach. His nifty educator was really passionate about how could you potentially solve a problem that you see using a skill set you have, and he was able to scale just lessons that he was teaching on the side for the kids in his neighborhood to now he has 5 sites throughout Miami, which is where I'm based. It's called Elite Basketball Academy. He employs around 20 people in his company. And, you know, through the help of mentorship, which is actually something that Brad was talking about yesterday, we were able to connect him with a fantastic mentor. He was able to build something that now is employing folks and supporting his family. So I think about Andres a lot, and I just connected with him actually last week because we like to stay in close touch. So.
Thank you. How about others? Any really cool student engagement stories, examples?
Well, I have a couple. First of all, and this is very close to my heart, when we first started piloting the system that we're implementing, we brought in a former head of education in Puerto Rico that is the expert in trata humana and illegal drugs in schools. And he had found that there was a drug point next to every single school in Puerto Rico, both elementary, intermediate, and high school. And we actually had the program in various of those schools, and after one competition, one of the kids, he was an 8th grader who did a fantastic job and won the competition. He gave a testimonial and said, for the first time in my life, I have found that I can have a legal business. Everybody in my family has been involved in an illegal business, and now I know how I can do it legally. Example number 1. Example number 2, through the competitions, we actually gave challenges to kids based on the problems that we have that we needed to be solved. And after the hurricanes, from 2017, that we were powerless for 5 months, the whole island. A group of kids from the mountain area developed a power generator for apartments. And we had some wonderful lawyers that helped them get patents and get the whole program going, and they were able to present an MIT. 4 of the 5 kids had never been in an airplane. And they had never obviously been in a place that was cold, and the whole experience was fantastic and totally changed them. And the third example, who is also very, very close to our heart, one of the kids that he was a top science student was going to drop out of school because his mother got cancer. And through the competition, he came up with the idea of developing popsicles based on herbs that are used by in our homes to heal different types of illnesses. So the first one he developed was for the pain of his mother. And it was an incredible opportunity. This guy today is a doctor and is working on research. And the University of Puerto Rico helped this group of kids to develop a refrigerator that could be used to fly the popsicles for a presentation in MIT for a competition. All of them had never been in a plane. So you get the picture. This is life-changing.
Awesome. How about you with the big mixed-use campus?
Yeah. So I think what we've found is like the path to building entrepreneurial mindset. Like launching a venture is one avenue for that, but too often when we deal with high schoolers, we forget that we're really trying to build a toolkit that they can carry with them. And so in our infancy, we found that providing the opportunity for students to build that entrepreneurial mindset for other people was invaluable. So we've worked with about 120 different companies, organizations, and entrepreneurs deploying students to help them solve a problem they're facing. And so a great example of that is we had about 16 students work with a solopreneur. He had launched a proprietary cutting board that used some old Japanese philosophy and technology, but he kind of hit a barrier as he wanted to go from generation 1 to generation 2. And so those students were really able to act as his product development team. We provided probably $15,000 of pro bono service work for him, but the students were able to deploy all of those core competencies that we had really trying to bring to life, but in a real context. And so the idea is like, if we give them a seat at the table, the chance for them to experience that failure and opportunity in a variety of ways is something that we have been really proud of.
Can I share one?
Please.
Yeah, thank you. It's there's as you guys speak, and I'm like, there's so many stories I'm sure bubbling through your head, and I'm lucky enough to work with both underserved communities and privileged communities, and it's really fascinating to watch how when you just move out of the way and you open the door, how you let them be kids or children and just let them think and challenge it, of course, sometimes, because sometimes they're unreal about some things, but generally speaking, just move out of the way. Just how they flourish in such a beautiful way is really powerful, and just to watch that. So one of the success stories I have, I'd like to share, it was really watching this one kid that came from an underserved community and being able to be, we do our programs sometimes with a collaboration with the universities. So the kids are on university campus. That's one of our methodology of mindset to help them think that they could also go to a university, because sometimes they're coming from communities that don't do that. So the idea would be is for them to be there, and the kid was just seeing how he got excited about one idea. The teacher pulled me to the side, because we work with the teachers to bring the children, and he told me, this child is always late to the classroom, never does homework, and he has not left the classroom for 1 minute to go to the bathroom, and he's usually in the bathroom for like 15 minutes. What is happening? And that to me was so exciting to hear it from the teacher about the child, because we didn't really do anything. We just kind of like asked the questions about a problem to solve in a community, and they just went at it. And it was really, it still gives me goosebumps to share the story, because just seeing how the kid didn't want to leave the classroom and hearing it from the teacher who's seen it every day and is very frustrated with his activities every day, to see that happening in front of us was really just mind-blowing, because I don't know the children as much. Right? We're meeting them for a day or a week, but these teachers work with them every day. So it was really very fulfilling to see that the child just flourishing and wanting to do more and not even taking a break. And when we gave him a break, he took his team and said, we're going to go downstairs and work on this. Bring your laptops. And this is when the teacher pulled me to the side. Is like, what is happening? Because the teacher are usually not inside the classroom. They're just outside doing their thing, right? And then, like he noticed that the kid never came out, the kid never left. And then in the break, he's asking them to work. That's just mind-blowing. So it was really amazing to watch.
So you think about it, there would be none of this conference if we didn't spark that entrepreneurial way of thinking early on to foster, what might become. So it's one thing to do it with students and engage and empower them and show them something experientially versus academic and mentor them. How do you get the educators and the administrators to come along on this journey when, let's just face it, this isn't necessarily what they were trained to do? So let's start with Gloria.
Well, we have been working on developing a model for the past 14 years. It takes time, and you need to engage the educators and have them participate in the brainstorming and co-create with them so that you develop something that really works. And you also have to invite the kids and have them participate and co-create in the design. In our case, I brought you some examples of what we're doing. You have it, both sides of the room have the same example, but basically what we are sharing with you is a toolkit that we put together. It has 8 mini posters posters, and we gave one of these to each of the schools in Puerto Rico, from the public, private systems, as well as alternative education and faith-based, as I mentioned before. And the posters describe what we're doing. First, we had to train the teachers. We onboard them on the importance of developing these skills as skills for the future, as we have to prepare our kids to be globally competitive. With the migration patterns, we know that many are going to leave the island. We have lost 1 million people from a top of 4.4 million in the past 30 years. That's a lot of people, and we know it is going to continue to happen. So we need to prepare our kids to be globally competitive, work from Puerto Rico for Puerto Rico, from Puerto Rico to the world, or wherever they go, they have to be globally competitive. So they need to have future-ready skills. And we started explaining this to the teachers, and then we have them go through an onboarding and a certification process. After doing that, we designed a system with them. Again, it was co-created to transform each school into an enterprising school. I'm not going to go through the details, but you have it in the mini posters. But basically, we have 7 essential components that I will share with you later. And the first one is to make sure every single teacher themselves have developed the skills. And for that, they have to become entrepreneurs. So all the trainings are experiential for the teachers so that they themselves understand what they need to do with the kids.
Thank you.
I want to add on to that, because this is something that we think about a lot in terms of our educators and the profession of being an educator, that, you know, in different places is or can be really not respected or not appreciated in the way that it should be. And so one of the things that we really focus on is an educator-first mentality, and the fact that our role primarily is in supporting and providing resources to educators. So one of the pieces that we do in our research is understanding what teachers need, and as a profession, what the gaps are for teachers right now. The biggest thing that we hear from our network of teachers is that programs that they want to implement are the ones that help them stand out as professionals. So what does that mean? That means that it provides opportunities in the broader industry, within education spaces, within their own schools, to stand out as exemplary educators, and also provides them the tools to build their career, right? So this is not something we always think about because we really focus on the kids, which is great, but also teachers are building their own careers, especially junior educators. And so being able to provide events, networks of professionals that teachers can plug into is really valuable in incentivizing them to adapt and put in the extra effort to support their kids in this way. And then the other thing, and I will shout out Gloria in this, is that there are certain places in the world, in the US, that are really leading the way in the public policy necessary to build up the resources to support teachers who are teaching entrepreneurship. In Puerto Rico, for example, being able to have requirements around entrepreneurship curriculum in the school is really a way that teachers can have this be a standalone class, for example, in their school day. States like Indiana, states like Florida here in the US are also doing this. So I wanted to mention those 2 things that are really important for educators.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'd like to add to that. Thank you so much, guys. I mean, this is we have several programs, so it's I'm trying to expose you to different ideas that we have. And one of the things working with the teachers specifically is we have a certification, so that inspires them to be certified to facilitate a program, and that's part of their professional development. But I think teachers have the burden of being pulled into so many directions. And I think some of the times, because of that burden that's pulling them to do this or do that, does it meet this quota or does it meet this standard? Excuse me. They might be challenged to accept what we might be imposed on them, that this loosey-goosey maybe ideas of entrepreneurship and creating a mess to create a solution. So I think they're somewhat caught in this dilemma of like, okay, I want to do all these extra activities or some of the activities, and sometimes we have a classroom just for that. but I also have to meet this dilemma. So I think meeting the teachers where they are to kind of like support them to get their professional development, but also challenging them to accept unstructured maybe programs or unstructured activities to cultivate entrepreneurship and mindset and others leadership skills is really key to keep them engaged. So I think bringing them in but taking them out in the same time is what I usually say. So bring them into the idea but take them out of the implementation, because sometimes they want to go to their structured methodology. An example that we were running a program and we asked the students to do research. And that's the instructions. Do research. That's it. And then the teacher was like, well, where are they going to go the research at? I'm like, just step outside. Just let them do the research. Well, we need to give them more instructions. No, that's the instructions. Do research. And he's like, but they don't know what that means. I know that they don't know what that means. You got to let them be. And then, we left the room and came back. And of course, they don't know what that means. So they were asking each other. And someone said, to go to Google. Someone said, go to chat. Someone said to go to this. And then someone said, search the research. And someone searched what research means. And next thing you know, they actually have a list of 15 to 20 different sites that they could research. We wait for 15, 20 minutes before we give them the next idea, which is, here are some few sites you might find additional information on. But we want them to struggle to understand the learning, because you could either come from mentality, and this is where I think meeting the teacher where they are, some of the teachers think that they're there to educate, and some of the teachers there think that they're there to inspire for learning. And then we like to get the teachers to work with us on inspirations for learning. There is a room for education for sure, but on our programs there has to be inspirations of learning, so the kids or the children wants to go out and search and wants to out and educate and wants to out and learn more on their own, with or without us.
I think simply, I get the fun perspective of being on the inside. And so I think what we found in, there's two key things. Like one, like do cool stuff. Like people want to be a part of something exciting, and that ripples a lot quicker than you think, or it forces people to choose that they don't want to be a part of that, and it opens up the opportunity for someone else. And then inherently school sucks. And all of the systems that educators operate in are the opposite of the things that we want to promote in developing entrepreneurial mindsets. So like for us, we have no waivers. We're a part of the public school district, but we try really hard to operate with our adults the same way and focus on the same attributes and competencies that we want to develop in students, giving teachers the chance to experience those same things without fear of punishment or repercussion is, I think, vital to creating that culture.
Well, so not only does school suck sometimes, there's some data points that say students think that working in industry, working for corporations sucks as well. I saw one stat that said 60% of Gen Z wants to either work for themselves or with their friends and never do what their parents did, working for the man. So let's talk about public-private partnerships and how we engage, companies. So let's start with you, Ferris.
I saw you looking at me. I'm like, are you going to go to Gloria? Or are you going to go
I'm not saying you suck. I'm saying you have information on the topic.
No, that's okay. It's okay. I'm part of the system too, right? So I think the partnership is really the key. So all of our programs we do in partnerships with public-private sectors and educators, because I've always believed that's how you make change, right? So all of our programs have a component where we bring guest speakers or we take them to the sites of the institutions or the small business owners on a tour and have them meet the actual entrepreneurs as well as their locations and ask the entrepreneur questions. We also have other people come, like one of our programs is called Global Trade Mission. It's a virtual trade mission. We bring guest speakers from other countries to speak on that topic. So many times they're speaking about about culture, how to do business in that country, and sometimes we're lucky enough to bring the ambassador or someone on a high level to be able to speak to these children, and that connection alone is just inspirations to many of them. So bringing the industry into the classroom and then taking the classroom into the industry are the two things that we do. And this is how we sometimes also get funded. We also, like one of the awards that we give is an internship in a small business. So they might win a 3 months internship, paid internship during the summer to work in a small business. So that's a partnership when you bring in other private institutions. And you want public because you also want to make it accessible to everyone. So I have a QR code for those who are interested. You could download like one of these programs for in our. They'll put it up here. So if you join the classroom, I put 3 or 4, examples of our work, so you could kind of see what we did. But there's on the cover page, there are probably 56 or 70 logos of different organizations that either gave us money or time, or we went to their sites and joined. And those are all private organizations that chose to be participants in the program. And then we have some of them are public institutions as well. So I think partnership is really key. I also work the whole idea that we have to work with others to make it a better place.
How about others?
I think for us, right, so we primarily work with 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, and not all of them are going to go off to start their own thing. But I'd encourage you as members of the ecosystems that live around our youth is what we've had success with in public-private is blurring the lines of that transition into the ecosystem, because we always joke like, right, high schoolers go from managed time, every second of their life is managed, to literally the day after graduation, it's like, what do I do now? And so what we've tried to do is create relational capital for students within the structure of our environment. So that might be pro bono financial services. It might be relationship with the 3 or 4 key incubators or entrepreneurial support organizations in our community, so that when they leave the formal education structure, they're not a fish out of water, and they either have access to the resources already, or their ability to navigate where to find those is a lot simpler than the complexity of thinking they'll just magically show up at the right door at the right time.
Let's keep pulling that thread if we can. So, given your mixed use and everything you just said, you've got this amazing location facility most don't have. What's the economic development upside? What are the KPIs? Like money talks
Sure,
and outcomes
yeah.
talk, and all educators are held to standards, even if they don't understand what
Right.
it is.
So I think we've had a lot of fun of like how thinking of fostering entrepreneurial mindset as a way to promote economic development in a community is a unique lens. But so a couple key examples is, we've been blessed to be in relationships or partnerships that have allowed other key organizations or institutions or companies to increase opportunity in our community. So a good example is one of our local universities is launching a new manufacturing incubator on that campus with us. And we know the existence of AMP Lab and the work that our students did was a really key role in them receiving, I think they got $21 million from the Lilly Foundation to be able to start bringing that to life. And so for us, not only is it a way to think about how do you leverage the relationship that students have in that perspective, but also to create ripple effects at the local level.
How about others?
If you don't mind, I would love to talk just briefly about the role that community, and specifically we focus a lot on the network that we provide to teachers and students. through volunteerism and through the relationships between the school systems, Ministry of Education throughout the world, and industry, right? So being able to bring kids into businesses and business people to the classroom, that combination, and really prioritizing the connection between grown-ups who are usually sitting in an office or in their own house nowadays, and bringing them into the classroom to see, like, what are kids like? It's terrifying for a lot of them, and we actually have to do more training with the grown-ups than with the kids to prepare for these interactions. But so, for example, one of the programs that we do this a lot and really focus as an introduction to entrepreneurship and innovative thinking is through our World Series of Innovation. It's a completely open to the public online design thinking competition. We have different challenges sponsored by corporations, and then organize what we call innovation days with those sponsors to have their challenges. So one of them was a clean water challenge, how you can innovate to provide clean water. They put that out to the kids. Kids ages 5 through 24 can submit ideas in different formats. And then work with employees, volunteers from these companies on their ideas, right? So they have that coaching experience with the kids. And that way they're practicing design thinking, utilizing their creativity in the context of the United Nations Sustainability Goals. And then there's prize money as incentive to get them to submit their ideas. So volunteerism and that interaction, I think, is hugely important both for the school system and for the companies.
Very cool. So this is, do you want to add, Gloria, please?
Yes. I would like to add to all the different components that the team has mentioned. In our case, we have used system thinking to design how we were going to develop the entrepreneurship, innovation, resilience, and sustainability culture in Puerto Rico. And we know that culture change takes a generation, so 25 to 30 years. We're halfway through, we think. But going through this through system thinking, we designed programs to transform the schools into enterprising communities, the college campuses into enterprising communities, the municipalities into enterprising communities, and the whole island, little by little, into an enterprising community. At the school level, the system has 7 essential components that we have been testing over time, and we have eliminated stuff that didn't have impact and refined the components. And I would like to mention them, in addition, the ones that are beyond what you had already mentioned. We're establishing entrepreneurship clubs in every high school, and with the support of the Economic Development Administration, we are establishing maker spaces, hubs of different types in every school. That we started with high schools, but it's going to go down to intermediate and elementary schools. We have an island-wide competition of entrepreneurship and innovation. We're providing spaces for the kids to show their products, and we started showing them at the bank, at the branches of the bank that was sponsoring the program in the beginning, but then our allies like gas stations and supermarkets and retailers allowed the kids to also show and sell their products. We are starting to establish school enterprises where the kids participate in programs. It has to be more than a year. It cannot be just in one class, one project. It has to be with continuity. And in addition to that, we adapted the startup weekend model. We are calling it Youth Startup Experience, and that's a kickoff of the school year for the clubs, so that kids experience in the classroom, in the school, the startup, but we're inviting the community to participate, so the community is learning from the kids. And I would like to add, and this is, again, very important, to engage the industries, to engage all the private businesses. You have to go and find the people that are going to help you. And what we have been doing is inviting them, from CEOs to finance directors to human resources directors to anybody that wants to come and help, to be judges in the different competitions, so that they see the kids in action, and it is automatic. They want to help. So that's what we have been using to engage the folks. And the Alliance, we systematically also went and first added the academia. The 7 largest universities in the island are collaborating, and we have a university president's team. Then we added all the trade organizations, the Puerto Rico Manufacturers Association, the Made in Puerto Rico Association, the Chamber of Commerce. Then we added the nonprofits, 136 nonprofits. And we added them individually, and then they work together. And in our advisory board, we have representatives of all the sectors. So they are adopting the program, and it's become a mission for the whole collective.
So before we go into a wrap, and I'm going to ask all the panelists to give one last thought and best thought that they really want you to take away from this. Before we do that, are there any burning questions from the audience? We got time for a couple of quick ones, if anybody wants to ask it. Could you hand them a microphone, please? Gentleman in the blue lanyard. Yes.
Hi there, Steve Aitchler from EE UK. How do you best influence policymakers and curriculum designers to allow the space in K through 12 curriculum for entrepreneurship? I know in the UK we have a very inflexible curriculum.
I'll speak to this a little bit, because we've had success, like I said, here in the U.S. in a few different states, and we've been working outside the U.S. Haven't had any full wins of requirements yet per se for standalone courses, but we're definitely on our way. The school systems at the end of the day are all about the flow of funding, and that funding is tied to metrics. And so one of the things that we've been working long and hard with ETS, which is the testing electronic testing system, and then the Certiport, so Pearson Certiport, the publishing company, is to provide certification exams and specific survey tests that can be taken pre and post for courses to be able to measure both cognitive and non-cognitive skill sets. So increases in knowledge of entrepreneurship, so just end of course exams that are pretty normal. But then we have the Entrepreneurial Mindset Index that tests the increase in the non-cognitive skill sets that entrepreneurship develops. And those two levers are ultimately what those school systems want to see in order to invest in courses. So that's really the thing that we've had to focus on to be able to move those levers. And then, as Gloria was mentioning, bringing those policymakers into spaces where they're hearing from the students directly and seeing the impact of programs on those kids.
Let's ask one more question.
I would
Or
like
Gloria
to
can
add to the answer.
Okay.
We basically took over. So the Alliance designed public policy. The Alliance gave for free the work that was done to align all the entrepreneurship and education and innovation curriculum to all the core subjects to the Department of Education. The Department of Education put zero money on this, and it was volunteer work. So it's a changing mindset. We're changing all the rules. But if we are going to be bold and we're going to change the world, we have to go and take over. And and be change makers, and go for a white canvas. And now I already said my closing comments.
Well, I was going to say, that sounds like your last thought, best thought. It's a good one, change the world. Why don't we go into last thought, best thought? And I would just encourage you, we're not going away, engage with this amazing group of people. You do not have to reinvent this wheel yourself. A lot of people have been to the grindstone, so please benefit from their pain and suffering so you don't have to go through the same thing. So last thought, best thought, Riley.
So I'd say two things, act super local. Entrepreneurship is such a ubiquitous concept that really find what matters most in that individual context, and then find opportunities to treat high school students like human beings and adults. Too often, we are too dismissive of the role that they should play in our communities.
I don't know if this is my best thought, but it's something I haven't said yet. So,
Top five.
entrepreneurship is all oftentimes about failure and learning from failure and pivoting. But we expect students to come out of the gate with an amazing idea and win the first time. And it's not. Entrepreneurship, like everything, like any knowledge set, is a muscle that has to be developed over and over again. It's not one class you take and you got it and you're going to make an amazing business that's going to change the world. So first, that entrepreneurship can be taught in the K-12 setting is hugely important. If there's one takeaway, I would love everyone to walk out of here with that. And second, that it needs to be taught over and over and over again. These are skill sets that you learn the basics of, then you develop a little bit more, and then you continue developing. And with each of those levels, you come up with better ideas and you see more problems that can be solved.
Thank you. Ferris.
I'm going to say be you. Just go for it. And, I will also add one thing I wanted to say earlier, so I'm not sure if it's best thoughts. Challenge the status quo, especially for metrics. Because a lot of times they want to measure how many businesses you opened. We're not looking for a business to open. We're looking for a mindset to be shifted, or we're looking for whatever you are trying to do. Challenge it, don't accept it.
And in closing, we don't see that we are developing entrepreneurship and innovation skills for kids to become entrepreneurs and start a business. We are basically developing the skills so that they become the CEO of their life. And that is what this is about. They have to become lifelong learners, globally competitive citizens, and be ready for everything. So that's basically what we're trying to do.
And I'll leave you with one as well, which is, you probably all heard, no child left behind, no child left inside. How about no entrepreneur left behind? If you see that spark somewhere in your administration, in a teacher, in students, in a parent, pull on that, make it happen, because you never know what that spark might turn into, a raging flame. Thank you, very honored to be here. I guess this will be broadcast somewhere sometime. Come say hi. We really appreciate you coming out. And thank you, panelists.
Thanks
Thank
to you,
you.
Mike.